Hi guys, and welcome to my Best of Beauty 2018 series. In today's video, we're going to be talking about old favorites. So these are products that have been in my collection for a while, I've used for many years now, and I continue to reach for. These are probably some of the things that have gotten the most use, the most love over time, and even though I'm trying new products all the time, I still find myself reaching for these, using these, traveling with these. My dog has a little penguin and he wants to squeak it. Hold please. Marty, come here, buddy. Little Marty has a little penguin. Do you want this? Just here. And away he goes, squeaking his little head off. Okay, where was I? Without further ado, we have a ton of products here in front of me. Let's get started. Like my first video, I'm going to kind of go through these in terms of how I would apply them to my face. And unfortunately, the first product I don't have to show you because I actually used it up this year and I haven't replaced it because I'd like to use up some other primers before I do. But one product that I absolutely love is from IT Cosmetics. It is their number 50 Serum Collagen Veil Anti-Aging Primer. So it has loaded with anti-aging ingredients, and then it also really does a phenomenal job of smoothing out my skin, giving me a little bit of hydration and just giving me a slightly tacky, wonderful base to start with. It is kind of a pricey primer, but I have seen this as part of Ulta's 21 Days of Beauty sale be 50% off. So if that pops up again, I'm probably going to pick up another bottle because I do really enjoy it. But like I said, I want to get through some of the primers in my collection before I go ahead and repurchase it. But it is definitely one I would repurchase. I absolutely loved it and couldn't say enough great things about it. I don't have the heart to take the squeaky toy away from him, so I'm just praying that you guys can't hear that with the door closed. Apologies if there are parts in this video where all you hear is squeaky, 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 squeaky. Okay, so the other primer that I wanted to talk about is from Becca. So this is the First Light Priming Filter. In fact, I think I like it better than the Backlight Priming Filter, the one that's a little bit more pearly. That one's a little bit more glowy. This one is more of a subtle glow. It's also more hydrating. So it's like if the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer, that very liquidy, just moisturizing primer, kind of had a baby with the Backlight Priming Filter, which is a lot more glowy and a lot more pearly. The result would be this. Do not let the purple tint scare you. It's not actually purple on your face. If anything, I find it to be just a little bit brightening. Sometimes lavender can help deal with any sallowness and actually brighten your skin quite a bit. You guys need to see what's happening outside. So it's clearly hard to film when that's going on, but it's adorable and I can't stop it. So we're gonna, hopefully with the door shut, you will not hear all the gurring and the squeaking and the craziness. They seem to have calmed down. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So love this primer. I think it is phenomenal. I reach for it a lot when it is cold out, and I definitely see myself repurchasing this one because I have yet to find a drugstore dupe or any other dupe, even at high end, that I think compares to this. So really love this. I do have 3 foundations I want to talk about. So the first one continues to be on a favorites list. This is my IT Cosmetics CC Plus cream. This is a new tube. I used up my IT Cosmetics CC Plus cream as part of my 2018 sort of Project Pan. I have not updated that. That will probably be the next video that goes up after this sort of best of 2018 is done. It's kind of my wrap up from my Project Pan. But I think you guys knew from my last check-in I'd used that up. This is my backup container because as I was running low, it went on sale and I was able to snag it at a really great price. Probably one of my favorite foundations. Just gives me nice medium coverage, never looks heavy, never looks cakey, lasts really well, has SPF 50, UVA, UVB, so it's also really great in the summertime. I really feel like I've got great protection on when I'm wearing this, plus a sunscreen on my face, so great product. I think a lot of people talk about it, and for good reason. The other 2 are from the drugstore. So one is my CYO Long Lasting Foundation, Lifeproof. I'm in the lightest shade 101. I think what I love the most about this foundation is how easy it is to apply. It just almost blends itself onto your skin. It is incredibly smoothing. It is maybe on the more glowy spectrum. I don't know as if I've ever seen anyone review this who has oily skin. If you have oily skin and you've tried it, let us know down below what your reaction was to this. I have normal skin and it works beautifully and lasts beautifully on me. That Taylor now has dry skin. It works incredibly well on her. This is just one of those foundations too, where if I put on a foundation and I think it's looking dry or it's clinging to dry patches or it's just looking I don't know, not great on my skin. What I will frequently do is squirt a little of this on the back of my hand and actually take my beauty blender and pick up some of that and blend it over the top of whatever my base was. And it frequently saves the day. It's just really smoothing, really plumping. I think it's going to work really well if you have any sort of fine lines or any sort of texture on your skin. So love this. It's also a really great shade match for me. The third foundation I wanted to talk about is from number 7. It is their Stay Perfect foundation. It's in this lovely glass frosted bottle. I have the shade Calico. I think this is the lightest shade. It is a smidge dark on me. In the summertime, I can kind of get away with it. During the rest of the year, I definitely need to lighten it just a smidge, either with that Lifeproof foundation or with a whitening drop. But the longevity of this foundation is just incredible. I find that all of the number 7 formula foundations are actually amazing, which is kind of an oddball thing to say. Their matte foundations work well for me. The Stay Perfect foundation is gorgeous on my skin, and then they have just updated sort of their more hydrating foundation for spring, or for fall rather. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit, in a future video rather, but heads up, I like that one too. This one just goes on my skin, once again, kind of like that Lifeproof one, really easily, blends out really easily, doesn't look cakey, doesn't look heavy, just looks like skin. And then what this really impressed me on is how well it lasts. It says it's nonstop complexion perfection, wear all day. And I 100% agree with that. I wore this in some really obnoxious conditions. We went to Washington, D.C. With my stepdaughter, was it last summer, I think? Yeah, it was during the summertime last year, and it was humid and it was muggy and it was sweltering hot, and we were walking from place to place outside going to visit museums, and I got up in the morning and I put this on and I did a light setting of powder, and I fully expected to walk in late in the day and look in the mirror and feel like my face had melted, and I was shocked at how great my skin still looked. And I don't have a lot of foundations that I feel like really look like foundation, don't look cakey, don't look heavy, and then they last that long. So really impressed with this foundation. Like I said, I would like to research if Calico really is the lightest shade. I sometimes, based on how they have them organized online, I have a hard time telling what shade is the lightest. I definitely feel like Walgreens has the best selection, and they also have testers, but I don't feel like they have all of the shades either. So if there's a lighter shade than Calico, I might get it, but I can make it work very easily. I think the undertone of his is very comparable to the CYO one, just a little bit deeper. In terms of powders, I have 2 powders that I've continued to love. I know I raved and raved about the Hourglass Veil powder, but I still continue to reach for my Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder for underneath my eyes. I've used up a good portion of what is in here, and while I don't think I will replace this immediately because I feel like I have a lot of loose powders I'd like to get through, and I just purchased the Veil one, this is one I would absolutely still 100% recommend. It doesn't have any of the glow that I mentioned in the Hourglass Veil powder. I don't think that one's incredibly glowy, but does have a smidge of glowiness. This has none to it. It is a talc-free product, so I find it doesn't dry me out very much. This used to be the only thing I would use to set my under eyes ever, and it's still one of my go-tos. So I also think the packaging is really great. The sifter kind of cap pops into place so it doesn't go everywhere. It travels really well. I've packed this in overnight bags a zillion times, so I really do love this powder. And then I have 2 pressed powders I want to talk about. One is my Milani Prep Set and Glow powder. This is also part of my project pan for this year. Made good progress on it. This is just a lovely soft filter powder. I think it has a similar, just ever so slight glow the way that the Veil powder has from Hourglass. This powder just never looks cakey. I can use a ton of it and it never looks like I've put powder on my face. And for me personally, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I want to be able to set my foundation so it doesn't feel really tacky and I feel like it's set in place, but I never want it to look like I have loads and loads of powder on my face. I know powder can make your skin look really smoothing, but I think that the more powder, at least that I personally use, the less skin-like my skin looks, and I really want my skin to look like skin as much as I can while wearing makeup, right? So this is one of those powders that's just incredibly forgiving all over my skin, never lays down too much powder. I absolutely love it. I have in a pinch used this underneath my eyes, and I've liked it really well there as well. So there have been times where I was trying to pack just a very small minimal makeup bag for an overnight trip, and then this is the only powder I've taken, and I've been able to set my under eyes and my skin very well with both. So This is a great powder. And then the second pressed powder I have to mention is from Hourglass. So this is one of their ambient lighting powders. My favorite shade is Moodlight. I think if you don't like shades that are maybe as pinky undertoned as this, go look at Dim Light. That one's more neutral undertoned. But as somebody who has fair, cool toned skin, I find the slight pinky tint to this really does brighten my skin quite a bit, and it looks really natural and really healthy. This is a powder that I'm not going to use to set my makeup, but I'm going to use it as sort of a finishing powder, something maybe at the very end after I've applied everything else. I'll just kind of take a light fluffy brush and dust it all over my face, and it just smooths everything out, gives me a nice soft glow, will maybe bring a little glow to my skin if I'm feeling too matte, will add a little bit of life from the color if I am feeling a little sallow or just a little dull. I love this powder. It's great. I don't reach for it every single day, but every time I reach for it, I absolutely love it. And it's one that I just like having in my drawer because when I need it, and I really notice a big difference when I use it. Okay, so from base products, now let's talk about some other face products. So let's talk about bronzers first. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up my Charlotte Tilbury duo. This is the Filmstar Bronze and Glow. I've used this a ton this year. I used this on just about every single person I did bridal makeup on when I did my friend's wedding, and I did all of her sisters and friends and bridesmaids makeup. For the most part, a lot of different undertones, a lot of different people that I was working with, a lot of different skin types, and I used this duo on just about everyone, and it looked beautiful on all of them. I think the undertone of this bronzer is absolutely gorgeous. It is not very warm toned at all, but it's not so cool toned that it looks ashy on anyone's skin tone. But I feel like because it leans a little bit more neutral to cool leaning, I feel like you get almost a little bit of a shadow when you use it even as a bronzer. So it's like contour bronzer in one. I love that about it. It also has a really nice light satin texture to it, so it's not completely matte, but nor would I say it's super glowy. The highlighter is beautiful as well. It's probably not my favorite highlighter of life. It's a very natural highlighter that's got a little bit of a gold champagne shift to it. I definitely travel with just this and have used this highlighter and been totally happy with it. So it's not like this is a dud side and this is a great side. I work with both equally well. I definitely just prefer the bronzer over many other bronzers in my collection, and I don't think I could say that about the highlight. Hopefully that makes sense. Also, the packaging on this is lovely. It's rose gold, it's metal, it feels very beautiful. I really like Charlotte Tilbury's packaging. The other bronzer that I'm shocked that I'm not sick of yet is my butter bronzer. Now, I have light bronzer. I've heard some people say it's too warm on them. I definitely think it is warm leaning, but for me, I never feel like I look orange in it. Maybe I'm fooling myself, but I wear it all the time and I think it looks great on my skin tone. It's more, I will say it's more peachy, but it's not yellow. So I feel like when bronzers go yellow and get their warmth that way, I can't wear them. When they get a little bit peachier, I can see how people who are maybe super fair could find it to be a little orangey, but on me, I just find it's a really natural warm bronzer. It's been in my project pan, therefore I've been trying to use it up all year. Heads up, I still haven't hit pan on it. I feel like this is the never-ending bronzer. I really love how this works on my skin. I think it's mostly matte, but it's not like chalky. I think it's got a little hint, just a kiss of sort of glow coming from it, but it means it's very natural. It blends onto the skin. It lasts all day. I love the scent of it. I just think this is a beautiful product, and I know that it got a lot of hype out on YouTube, and I hope that hype doesn't die down because, quite frankly, I still think it's probably one of my favorite bronzers in my collection. The other bronzer that I found myself reaching for a lot, and it's actually what I'm wearing on my cheeks today, is from Bare Minerals. This is their Invisible Bronze. I have Light to Fair. This one definitely is a smidge more glowy than the last two that I talked about. It is also a really beautiful undertone. It's not too warm. It's not too orangey or yellowy on me. I think it's a very neutral bronzer. It has a lovely light airy texture to it, just very... Yeah, there's just no way to apply this bronzer too heavily or too intensely. It blends like a dream. The texture of this product is absolutely gorgeous. I didn't care for the highlighters that they put out in this similar formula, but in a bronzer format, absolutely beautiful. And it's just been one of those ones when I think to myself, okay, I want a more glowy, sort of bronzy look today. It's the first thing I think of in my collection. So I love this bronzer. In terms of blushes, I have a couple formulas I want to share with you guys. One, my Marc Jacobs Flesh and Fantasy bronzer. I continue to use the absolute snot out of this. I love that you've got a very glowy strip down here and then more of a satin, between a matte and a satin shade down here. So you can not only control the intensity of the shade itself, but also how much glow you want based on how you put your brush in there. If you just swirl it all together, you get a beautiful sort of satin texture. It's not overly glowy. It's not metallic. It doesn't emphasize texture. I do have other shades. I think I have one other shade from him, and I don't love the color as much as this one. The formula is equally as lovely, but this color in particular continues to be one that I reach for all of the time. And then from slightly expensive to incredibly affordable, I also have to mention the Essence. These are their Satin Touch Blush. It is a satin formula. I think of all the blush formulas that I have, I definitely prefer satin. I have picked up the 2 shades that they carry at Ulta, although I think Ulta may have discontinued carrying these if I remember correctly, which makes me irate, but I do believe they're still on the website for Essence. They're like $2.99, so incredibly affordable, really creamy, gorgeous formula. It just blends beautifully, feels like a high-end blush to me. This proves to me that you can make a beautiful formula that just performs, lasts, feels high-end in a really affordable price point. And I actually went out of my way to track down the more bronzy shade, shade 3 in Satin Bronze from overseas on an eBay seller who had a really stellar reputation for selling new drugstore makeup that came sealed, and this one did. The 3 shades there, I really wanted to have that more bronzy shade, and I love all of them. Today I'm actually wearing on my cheeks Satin Love, this sort of more dusty mauve color. That is what I'm wearing on my cheeks today. So love that formula. And then another favorite, honestly, and it's not just that it was in my project pan this year, it's that I genuinely adore and love this blush. It is Mellow Mauve from E.L.F. I've used a huge heck of a lot of this blush out, but it is just a beautiful satin, neutrally pinky mauvey blush. Like, it's gorgeous. In fact, the undertone of this blush when I was swatching all of these for the video is actually very comparable to the undertone that you get from the Marc Jacobs blush. So if the price point on this just doesn't, it just hits you too hard, I totally get it. I would highly recommend giving this E.L.F. Mellow Mauve blush a whirl. I will say I have tried other colors in this formula and haven't liked them as much. Sorry, I've tried other colors in this packaging. It's had a different formula. They've been either a chalky or matte, or they've been a shimmer formula that had a lot of glitter particles in it. So I can't sit here and tell you that everything in this E.L.F. sort of packaging blush is great, but in particular, Mellow Mauve is a well-formulated, beautiful shade that I love. And then in terms of highlighters, there are 2 highlighters that just call to me. One in particular from the drugstore that I still don't think gets enough love is from Milani. This is their Strobelight Afterglow highlighters. I think it's the color Strobelight, and these are their instant glow powders, if I'm reading this correctly. It's a beautiful champagne neutrally color. It's not too gold, it's not too silvery, it really is neutral. It is what I am wearing on my cheeks today. I just think it is such a gorgeous highlight. I think it can be very subtle and very natural, or it can be built up to be something far more intense. The milling of the powder itself is really smooth and really easy to apply. Doesn't highlight or emphasize texture rather. So this is a beautiful product, and they've got a ton of different colors at the drugstore that you can easily pick up. In fact, I'm starting to see these be more widespread as far as where you can actually pick them up. So look for that one if you have been looking for a drugstore highlight. I think it's probably my favorite formula at the drugstore. And then another highlighter that I would be remiss if I didn't mention is in kind of bulky packaging. It is from Mercier. This is her matte Radiance baked powder in 01. There are other colors for this as well. There's nothing matte about this, but it is a very natural, subtle, gorgeous highlighter. This one is also sort of that neutral light champagne. It's not white, it's not pink, it's not yellow. It really is nice and neutral. You can't over apply this highlight. It never looks chalky. It just sits beautifully on the skin. It looks very nice and natural. That's really what I want from a highlighter. I like an intense highlighter from time to time, but if I'm being very honest, I think my preference is for people to just think that my skin is really healthy and glowy versus, oh, that's a beautiful highlighter you have on, or wow, that is a stripe on your cheek. So my personal preference, to each his own, but that is what I get with this highlighter, and that is one of the reasons I love it so much. All right, so from face products, let's talk about eyes next. So I got to get some staples out of the way because they're products that I just couldn't do my makeup without. I use them almost every single day. One is my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer in Eden. I really do like an eyeshadow primer that has some pigment to it and lays down a smooth base, because then if I don't feel like doing a more complicated eye look, I have a very even wash all over my skin. I do find that I get better longevity and better staying power and better blendability using this than concealer. I know a lot of people just use concealer, and if it works for you, that is awesome. I don't find that my eyeshadow lasts as long when I'm just using concealer than when I'm actually using an eyeshadow primer like this. I will say I am going to try out one from the Ulta brand that I think a lot of people have raved about, and compared to this, I have purchased it. I haven't tried it yet, but for my purposes, I still have yet to try anything I like as much as Eden from Urban Decay. So that is one of my everyday staples that I just can't be without. And then the second staple that I just can't be without is from CoverGirl. It is their Clump Crusher Waterproof. It is what I use on my bottom lashes. I had problems for years and years because my eyes would get runny or watery from allergies. Problems by the end of a day with mascara underneath my eyes, and I tried mascara after mascara after mascara, and I never liked the waterproof ones when I used them on my upper lashes, but I never found a non-waterproof version that would work for my lower lashes, and ultimately I've just realized I'm gonna end up with two mascaras. So I have a host of different mascaras that I love for my upper lashes. I could list them all out here, but to be honest, I found a lot of mascaras I love kind of interchangeably for my upper lashes. Therefore, I haven't necessarily called one out as essential in this video because I've happily switched between a bunch of different ones. But one that I never stray from is this CoverGirl one, and part of it is the formula. It doesn't smudge or budge underneath my eyes even after long 12, 14, 16-hour days. And beyond that, it has a really easy to use brush. It is one of those sort of rubber brushes, but because of it, I find that it's very easy to separate my lashes. I never end up with mascara underneath my lashes while applying it. I find it separates but still applies just the amount of mascara that I want. And on top of that, it's a really affordable mascara. So this is just a staple that I can't see myself giving up. Another staple in my collection are my eyeliners. So my favorite eyeliner formula of all time is from Julep. So I do love the Urban Decay ones. I think they're lovely. I do like the NYX Slide On Glide On, both their lip liners and their eyeliners. I think those are great as well. But for both the color range and the formula, I really like the Julep. They're called Wooden Pencil Matte Gel eyeliners. These are in a wooden pencil, so you do have to sharpen them. I find that because they're in a wooden pencil and I'm having to sharpen them versus just twisting them up in a retractable format, they don't dry out as quickly as a lot of my retractable pencils do. I love the color tones that they have in these. They've got some really nice taupes and browns and a good hunter green. I have quite a few colors. I'm just showing you a few of my favorites. These have frequently gone on sale at Ulta. I've also picked these up as part of my Julep Maven subscription over the years. The formula is really creamy, so it really does allow me to kind of put some down on my lash line and smudge it out if I want to kind of give a soft liner look. But then when it locks into place, it really freaking locks into place. I find these last pretty well on my waterline. They're not the most long lasting. I think the most long lasting pencil is still the one from Marc Jacobs. Sorry guys, their matte formula, his matte formula rather, is probably my most long-lasting waterline liner, but that's not something I do every single day. I've just started to find that I prefer these smudgy, sort of sooty looks as liner versus a sharp, thick liquid liner. I still wear liquid liner. I'm wearing liquid liner today, but these have been probably my favorite pencils this year. I also have to mention some singles from Sydney Grace. I recently did a video featuring all of my Sydney Grace products, swatching all of them, talking to you guys about the different formulas that she has. I will link that video down below if you want more detail, but I love the cream shadows that she has. They are called, I think, just her cream eyeshadows. They are in new packaging, but my favorite shade, Vibrant Madness, is what I have in her old packaging. I think this formula is incredible. It sets and lasts all day. It does not budge. It is such a high shine metallic finish. Some of them do have some micro shimmer in them, but when they do, the micro shimmer particles don't move around on my face. It's just a fantastic cream shadow formula that packs a heck of a wallop on your eyes. But as far as a true cream shadow in like a squeezy tube or some sort of container, the ones from Sydney Grace are just insanely amazing. And then in terms of my single eyeshadows this year, you know, I've really found that for as much as I enjoy and love a lot of my ColourPop shades, I have some great Makeup Geek shades that I reach for a lot, and I have some great Anastasia singles as well. The shadows that impressed me the most this year out of all of those are still my Sydney Grace eyeshadows. So her single shadow formula is gorgeous. Her mattes are super pigmented, but it's still blendable. Her metallics are just incredibly foiled and work really well with a brush or your finger, which is something you don't always find when you're dealing with metallic eyeshadows. Like I said, if you want to see all the swatches and all my details, check out my review, but I had to mention both of those products because they've just really been standouts for me this year. And then I have a couple of eyeshadow palettes that I've just found myself reaching for quite a lot. So one is from Nabla. This is the Dreamy eyeshadow palette. It is their original eyeshadow palette. So I did a video earlier this year where it talked about if you could only use one for the rest of your life in a particular category, what would you pick rather? And this is what I picked, and I stand by that choice, and I've thoroughly loved using this the whole year. I feel like you've got cool tones in here, you've got warm tones in here, you've got neutrals in here, and as a result you can really make a variety of different looks. You've got a dark matte brown to deepen, which I think I've mentioned in other videos is kind of my favorite way to deepen an eyeshadow look versus I think this is an awesome palette and I absolutely love it, and I think the packaging is really pretty as well for those of you guys who are picking up products because you love a beautiful package as well. This one stands up on both fronts. Another palette that I kind of feel like every year I'm gonna get sick of, and then I find myself reaching for it when I travel a lot. It's the Tartelette in Bloom palette, and I know this one, you know, I feel like it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how people feel about Tarte eyeshadows. I've seen this palette decluttered several times this year from different influencers I follow, and I've seen people say that they don't like the Tarte formula, and then I've seen other people say that they absolutely love the Tarte formula. For me, I just feel like kind of like the Persona palette that I talked about in my last video as far as new palettes to me. This is one that I just rely upon for go-to good travel work looks. I have a row of cool tones, I have a row of neutrals, and I have a warm, slightly warmer tone, gets a little bit pinkier down here. You've got a great taupe, you've got a copper, you've got a really great champagne. If I was going to point fault at this palette in any way, shape, or form, it is that I don't feel like I need both of these shades. This one's a really dark reddish color, and this one is a dark brown, and that one is still a dark brown. It's not a black, but it's just a little bit deeper and a little more cool toned. I don't feel like I would need both of these. I could probably sub that out for something else, but in general, this is probably one of my most reached for palettes because it's one I trust to last on my eyes. It's one I trust to blend well on my eyes and to give me a really pretty, nice look for work and to match pretty much any outfit that I am packing, whether it's something I warrant wanting a warmer or a cooler or a more neutral look. So I continue to love this palette. The other palette that I've reached for a lot, and it's kind of surprised me, is from Too Faced. It's the Just Peachy Mattes palette. I loved this last year when I first tried it, and this year I've continued to reach for it quite a lot. When I wanted warm toned look, I'm almost always going, ooh, that's what I want to use to build a base of warm tone shadows. I've got lots of warm tone palettes that I really enjoy. I could have put the Modern Renaissance in here, but if I'm being honest, here's what's interesting to me about the Modern Renaissance palette. I love that palette, and I will continue to love that palette, and I could have, in all honesty, put it in this video and felt perfectly okay doing it. But what I found is that I've tested a lot of eyeshadows this year. I've tested a lot of different palettes, and so what's been interesting to me is to think back to what are the palettes that I was like, oh, I need to pull this back in. Oh, I really want to do a look with this, or I would have a look in my head that I would want to do, and what would jump out at me as far as what I wanted to reach for when I wasn't testing things. And I love the Modern Renaissance. I continue to use it, but I haven't used it to the degree that I have this guy. And I don't know if this is still available or not. To be honest, I know they discontinued White Peach. Part of me feels like I saw this one on sale, so I don't know as I'm filming this if this is still available. I kind of hope it is. But it builds beautiful warm looks. You can go very peachy, you can go very berry, you can go a little bit more of a warm brown look. They all blend well together. I just find like every time I use this palette, I end up with a really well blended, really just smooth gradient look on my eyes, and I love it regardless of which sort of undertone I've gone for. So I also think the packaging is beautiful. The peachy scent in here is lovely as well, unlike that original peach palette that I could never bring myself to buy because it smelled like a chemical drain. This one is really lovely and fresh and juicy smelling, so the scent on here is also lovely. So yeah, those are the 3 eyeshadow palettes that I think I have reached for the most this year. Alright, so let's move on to lip products. So let's start out with a product that's kind of balm slash lipstick like. It is from Julep and it's called It's Balm. It's their lip crayon. I have slowly but surely been collecting a ton of these different colors because I love the formula so much. So there is a core of sort of lip balm in the middle and then a really comfortable cream lipstick on the outside. There's no shimmer in any of these. It's just a classic cream lipstick, but these are so comfortable on my lips. It's just that formula where it's like, I know I want to wear a lipstick today, but my lips are feeling a little dry or a little dehydrated. This is the first thing I think of. I've packed a lot of the lighter tone shades while traveling or thrown them in my purse. A lot of them have sat in my carry-on bag that I just always leave packed, or in my work bag. In fact, as I was going to film this video and I was pulling out all of these for swatching because I wanted to be able to show you guys all of the shades that I own, I started to realize that I had them scattered to the wind and I was having to collect them out of lots of bags and places because I just always like to have one handy. It's kind of been my go-to lip product when I'm out of the house too, beyond just wanting to reach for it on a day-to-day basis. So I love the neutrals. I love some of the deeper sort of mauve shades in here. You know, if I had one shade that I probably need to give a little bit more love to, it is the Mulberry Cream. It's the deeper, darker shade. It's just not a shade I wear a ton, but I do think that the formula even works on these. I will also say it has a really nice soft vanilla scent to it, nothing too extreme. Just, it's a really great under talked about product from Julep. In terms of lipsticks, I would be remiss if I said I don't still have a continuing deep love affair with the Bite Amuse Bouche lipsticks. The 2 neutrals I reach for the most are Sugarcane, which is a pinker nude, a little bit more cool toned, and then Meringue, which is more of your true neutral, maybe slightly warm leaning lighter nude. And then the color Gin Fizz is just a lot of fun. It's a really blue-based sort of orchid pink color that I really love wearing in the summertime. It's one of the shades that I just feel like brightens my skin and makes my whole makeup look just look brighter and more punchy. It's a fun color. I think if you're cool toned, I think a color like this is a lot of fun to wear, especially in the summertime with a bronzy eye. So these also smell like pink lemonade, which makes me obnoxiously happy as well. They're incredibly pigmented. They go on in one swipe. They're really comfortable. Probably a formula you guys have tried before, but I have continued to love and reach for them. And then I've also really loved my Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. I have 3 shades in particular that I kind of went through and said, okay, yes, I could swatch every Charlotte Tilbury lipstick I have. If you're interested in that, I have done that, and I've given you some dupes as well, but I will link that down below. But my favorite, most used shades have definitely been Super Cindy, which is the more neutral, sort of light peachy nude. It's definitely a lot warmer. And then Pillow Talk in lipstick form is probably my favorite, most perfect pinky toned nude. This is probably the one I've used the most. Definitely has shown the most wear and abuse out of all of the ones I have. And then if I want a deeper nude, the shade that I've reached for quite a bit is Walk of Shame. It's just a really nice, muted, rosy brick red color. Maybe less red, more like muted rose, but it definitely has a little bit of warmth to it as well. It's not cool tone leaning. This has been great when I wanted a little bit of depth on my lips, but I didn't want to go super dark. This has kind of been the shade that I've reached for. So I love her formula. I love her packaging. They're just kind of these little gems that I always feel fancy pulling out of my purse, and I just always look at them and I just get this happy spot in my heart when I look at Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. So those are my definitely 3 most worn shades from her. And then the final lip product I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you guys about is my Marc Jacob lip glosses. For as much as I love a lot of lip glosses, and we talked about how many new lip gloss favorites I found in my first video, these continue to have a special place in my heart. They feel hydrating on my lips without ever feeling sticky. They have a nice gel texture to them. They're super shiny. I love that they have such a huge range of colors and opacities. You've got creams that are very pigmented and are almost more of a lip lacquer, but you have creams that are a little bit more sheer. You've got some shades that have a little bit of sparkle in them that are sheer, but you have some shades that have some sparkle that are a little more pigmented. Full range of colors. So Marc Jacobs lip gloss is a bit of a splurge, but still one of my favorite products on the market. And then last but not least, a finishing spray. This is my Scandinavia makeup finishing spray. If you are into sort of empties videos, I think you've seen me go through several bottles of this year. This is the bridal edition. It continues to be my favorite setting spray. It's the one I like even better than the Urban Decay one. I really do notice a huge difference when I use this in terms of the longevity of my makeup and how humidity and other outside factors mess with makeup. There is something about the bridal edition that is specifically meant to repel water, and so if you live in a very humid climate and you struggle with makeup lasting, I think this might be something worth trying. When you get these giant bottles, this is 8 fluid ounces, you can frequently get them on sale for 20 to 30% off on their Scandinavia website. They do have a fairly low threshold for shipping too, which is something I appreciate. So I think when I buy one of these, I pretty much always end up with free shipping if I recall, but it'll last me a while. You know, I use different products to add a little bit of glow or to set down any cakiness on my face, but in terms of what I use to set my makeup, this is the only thing I ever reach for. All right, guys, so that wraps us up for today. These were all of my favorites from 2018 that weren't new, things that I've reached for and love in my collection and have loved many times for years and years now. I would love to know down in the comments, what are products that you've had in your collection that still stand the test of time, that you still reach for, that you still love? I think it's great for us to find new loves and to find things that really knock our socks off from a new perspective, but sometimes some of the best products are things that are still in our collection that I think when we really think about and use and love, they just stand the test of time and they're really phenomenal products. So I would love to know what those products are for you guys. What are things that you just know are your favorites regardless of how long you've had them? I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Look forward to chatting with you guys in the comments. Bye.